Because I was looking for the live video, like,
Where was it going? Okay. Did it catch any of my spiel beforehand? Okay. Hi, friends. Take 3. Okay. We're holding. Okay. Okay. All right. I see us now. Hi, everybody.
I even have a link.
This is our 3rd attempt at this. And we're just going to go back from the top and do it again. Because everything that we have tried to do today has been kind of a shit-covered shit show. Maybe that's what we should call our show, is the shit show. So, welcome to Between Two Peers, a live stream show where your host, Mistress Sassy, Seamstress, and Sir Danger Muppet invite a guest from around the known world to answer your pressing questions about life, the universe, and everything. This week is sponsored by Bourbon and Ginger Ale. As our guest says, this is the drink when I want to go all Julia Sugarbaker on something. God knows it won't take much. So I am your host, Mistress Sassy Seamstress, otherwise known as Magnifica Tulia. I have decided I want to be referred to title-wise as Magnifica because it's just really freaking extra. And I really do like bourbon and ginger ale. So those things are really delicious together. And without further ado, I'm going to pass this over to my beautiful co-host, Sir Danger Muppet.
Hi, I'm Sir Danger Muppet, and apparently we are comparing ourselves to the drinks that we like this evening. And I'm going to go and say that I'm a tequila girl because that is just fun and sassy. And I should probably have a handler in the same time and place. Beyond that, I like hitting my friends with sticks and causing art to happen. So tonight we are honored to have the guest, Baroness Aeron. I screwed that up the first time, by the way, and so I was determined not to screw that up the second time. So welcome to the show, and we'd love to hear a little bit about you.
As introed, Baroness, Baron, depending on the attire, Aeron Corrino from lovely old Ontier, Pacific Northwest, here, coming from the Abbey of St. Felicia, where we are still locked up because of the virus. I like to sew, as kind of witnessed here, and I like puppies, and I like cooking, and I like calligraphy and art and being silly. So I think we're being good company tonight.
I am really looking forward to this episode. I'm expecting a lot of sass and just some good times. So leading into that, so we can have those good, we can have these good times sober, but drinking is always better sometimes, especially in a pandemic. So the drinking game.
Can do.
Yeah, pretty much. The drinking game. When a host or a guest uses a non-SCA name when referring to somebody else on the show. When somebody says, before I was a peer. When somebody says, within their kingdom, so West or Ontier this time. When someone says, when I last reigned, which pretty much everybody drinks when I say stupid shit then. When any of the people call soapbox, or somebody uses the term spite sprinkles. So with that, on to the questions.
All right. So this is from Baja, and it's directed at our beautiful guest. How long does it take to complete one of your jaw-dropping outfits?
There's kind of 2 answers to that. I've got a simple version and a complicated version, depending on my patience level. There's a dress that I made that I've jokingly called the Every Woman dress because I've put something like 7 different ladies in it because it's very adjustable. And it literally took 9 hours to make. Not really representative of most of what I do. Like this bad boy back here isn't quite done yet, but it's probably we're into the several weeks of work. The outfit that I'm wearing probably took in the neighborhood of around 2 weeks of work, most of it in making the embellishments on the squares and putting all the squares together. It was very fussy in that regard.
So that's not fabric that you bought that checkered. That's actually fabric that you made checkered.
Yeah. That's
insane.
Yeah.
This made checkers The sleeves are made cascading checker, and then the skirt is 9.5 yards of 11-inch squares.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
I know. I'm
that's
sitting there like,
amazing.
wow. Wow.
Oh, all right, and with that, the second question, because that was specifically sent in for you. This one actually comes. I submitted this one because I think this is a conversation that's worthwhile having. Also, I guarantee I'm going to drink a lot because I'm going to screw it up tonight. So please forgive me every time this happens. So my question is, can you explain? Can you please explain how you use gender pronouns and how/if they change depending on your situations? And then, is there any helpful tips or tricks that you would give people to remember proper pronouns? And I actually I propose this to everybody here, but it's actually very centered on you.
I will confess, I'm still learning on this one because I have a way of speaking and hearing, and I have to catch myself because thinking of non-gendered pronouns isn't a linguistic mode that I naturally fall into. So I have to consciously make the effort to do it. But for myself, the simple answer I give people is fit the pronoun to what I'm wearing. If I'm in boy clothes, he, him. If I'm in the Baroness full rigging, by all means go with she, her. I do make the distinction though that I am not someone who is transgender. I am someone whose persona portrays a woman in period because it happened in period. And so dealing with me can be a little bit different than dealing with someone who lives their life truly as trans in whatever state, in whatever part of the process they're comfortable in. And so honestly, I say, look at what they're wearing as the first indicator. If they're making a conscious choice to put on clothing that portrays them and puts them forward in a way that they feel comfortable with, at least start with that as your indicator. And most of the time, anyone who is on a spectrum journey like that, they're going to be more than happy to share with you, this is what I'm comfortable with. Would you please address me as long as you're politely asking them, hey, how would you like me to refer to you? I find myself doing that a lot to purposely make it clear I want to know, and I want them to understand that there are people in our organization who want to respect that process and where they are in it, rather than just make an assumption, so that they know who the people are who are safe people, who are going to support that whole process.
Yeah. I'm cis, so I identify as female. She, her, that's perfectly okay. They, them, also really don't care. It for me, it's not an issue of identity or anything like that. I'm just very laid back about pronouns. I also, for myself, I should say, not, other people, completely different, story. But I will say that it's an interesting thing for me, because many people I've talked to who have a hard time referring to they, them for non-gender, genderqueer, anything like that, is they're almost like a generational divide there. And I fall on the side of kind of, and I see this less in millennials. And so I'm right on the cusp of like Generation X and millennial, and I don't have a hard time switching to they, them. If that's the preferred, that's not like this weird like mental gymnastics I have to do to like get my brain to wrap around, that set of pronouns. Or either that, or I just never paid attention in grammar class, and so it never mattered, because I just used language the way it felt like it should be used. But for me, just as somebody who wants to and cares a lot about other people's comfort levels and what they want to identify with, that's something that if I fuck it up, I'll own. And I do try to be very cognizant about what other people prefer to be addressed like. So, I may slip up. I've done this a few times to some of my trans friends, and they've always been very, very, very patient and like, don't worry about it. But I really do make a conscious effort to respect what people want to be called, and how they want to be addressed.
So I'm the same. I technically fall under cis, because I am she, her. Though I get, amusingly enough, I get misgendered a lot because of my voice. I realize that I have I used to hate my voice. I'm learning to actually really like my voice because it is odd. And so like I get misgendered by kids all the time. Like it's actually really funny. Like I'm never offended by it. One of the things that I'm going to say, tricks and tips, because I've got a couple trans friends that we hang out, and sadly I dead named one the other day, because I'm an asshole.
Well, it was the mistake. It was a mistake, though, wasn't it?
Oh, it was 100% a mistake. They went down on the warfield,
yeah.
And I thought they were hurt, and my brain just took over like Mama Bear fucking over the top of them, and then I dead named them in the process, and then I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But one of the things that I try to do is I openly ask, and so that's one of the things that I think that if more people could do that, it will help drive the conversations. And most people, I've never had anybody really get sideways at me when I misgendered them. But I try to be very open and honest in asking how I can improve. And so with that openness, I've found that I'm actually picking it up much faster, because I have 4 or 5 friends now that are they, them. And that one's the hardest for me. And so I actually I will practice it with them. Like we'll have conversations and then they'll catch me in little corrections, and just it turns into a new learning game. Because really the thing is, I don't care what gender you are. I don't care how you identify. I want to make sure that you're comfortable around me. And so one of my tips and tricks is actually ask and then play games. It's just like learning games. And don't assume that you have to be perfect out the gate, but you should be polite. Mm-hmm. So, and with that, to the next question.
All right. Our next question is from Christine. Does cross-dressing for comfort, for instance, women wearing pants to not chafe or men wearing skirts for a breeze, help or hinder normalization of gender fluidity and gender acceptance in the SCA? How and why? It's kind of a big question. If we need to break it down a little, we can do that.
I think in some ways that is kind of neutral. I think you have to look more at intent. Mm-hmm. If it's truly about a guy, usually where it's going to be more helpful is when you have men wearing traditionally feminine attire, because that tends to be the bigger barrier in terms of acceptance. People have seen women wearing boy clothes within the SCA and have accepted that trope for a very long time, so they don't really think anything of it. But man, oh man, let me tell you, you walk into an event as a boy in a fully rigged outfit like this, you are the circus rolling into town. So I think it would come down to what is your intent when you do it. Are you making it a silly thing? Because if you're making it silly, it turns it into a comedic thing, and I don't think that's helpful. If you're just normal, you're putting on a sarong and then you're going and chopping wood because the sarong is the cool, comfy thing to wear. Yeehaw, rock on. You be Captain America ripping logs apart or chopping wood while you're wearing a sarong, because that's blending images of traditional masculinity and non-traditional. But I think it comes more, you have to look more at the situation and the intent of the person than just the act of a girl putting on boy clothes or a boy putting on a skirt or a sarong.
Mm-hmm. Helga?
So my answer to that is actually, because I don't dress very femininely very often. I'm always in pants. I look for, I try not to ever do it as a joke. I used to get a lot of shit in the SCA, actually, because I was not...
Your first reign as princess, and it was a big fucking thing. And
it was a huge thing. My first reign, that I was in dresses all the time. And that was the deal that I actually had with Anton, is that if he won, I would wear dresses. And so we went with Slavic. Long tunics.
Yeah, but everybody...
What was that?
I just said, it just the way that it was presented as, you know, oh, Helga's wearing a dress, ooh, and it was like, so the fuck what? You know?
I actually almost set myself up for that, really, is because I fought it for a very long time, and we're gonna do a little bit of a rabbit hole here. I, for a long time, is what I would talk about toxic femininity, and I was the opposite on that spectrum. I was taught very much so to blend in with the boys, and if you're one of the boys, you're safer, you're more accepted. You want to be a heavy fighter. They shouldn't see you as a girl. Like, same with I worked logging companies. That was one of my first jobs. I worked in construction, and it was the biggest compliment to get. Oh, you know, we see you as one of the guys. And so anytime I got really feminine, I get a lot of shit. And so I actually reinforced that very toxic behavior in myself. And within the SCA, I kind of set myself up for failure. And it took a little bit of deprogramming because I taught people to treat me that way. And so the whole Helga in a dress thing was actually almost like schoolyard teasing, in something that I reinforced culturally. And so that's the reason why now on the show you see me and I'm having fun doing makeup. I am like, occasionally I am tits forward. I have actually learned to try to balance both my feminine and the masculine a little bit, because I definitely fall more into the masculine side of feminine. But to go back to the idealized, like almost cross-dressing, is as long as it's done in a respectful way, I don't think it's damaging. And in the SCA, we tend to do it a lot. And so it's pretty normalized. And I wish it was actually more accepted, because when the guys do it, they get a little bit more teasing, and I'm really not pro that. Or I'm just like, dude wants to wear a skirt, they're comfortable, let him wear a skirt. You give him shit, we're gonna fight. So that's kind of my take on it, of just let it be normal, because then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So maybe this goes back a little bit to the previous question as well, but my approach, as someone who has a very feminine body, has always been to question what femininity is and what that means. I am a feminist, and I did a lot of feminist studies. I have a graduate degree in a humanities, area of humanities that is deeply steeped in feminist theory. So I can get really deep on this stuff. I can go way, way, way deep down. But it is, gender's a construct, and it's a societal construct. It's not necessarily helpful. It's a shortcut. It can be a shortcut, easy enough, you know. Now, are you male or female? What if you're neither? What if you don't give a fuck? What, you know, there's a whole bunch of nuance there that gets lost. And it's hard when you look one way physically, obviously, but you want to present another way. And so if I show up dressed in boy clothes, it becomes sexy and cute and fun. It's not hey, I'm just more comfortable in this. It's, you know, more utilitarian. It's, ooh, look at Tulia is dressing in a boy, you know, like it's a whole thing. And I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. I've watched it happen with other women. And then the reverse of that is that when someone who presents masculine dresses in a feminine way, it's, of course, a, you know, satire. It's jokey, or it's silly, or they're being maligned somehow, or, hey, dude, did you lose a bet? Ha ha. You know, and I go back to one of these things that very early on in my SCA career, there's an event in the West Kingdom called Ducal Prize Tourney. And one of the things about Ducal, which was fun, and, you know, I didn't realize kind of the toxicity of it at the moment when I was younger, was that they would do these like silly games. And one of the kind of cornerstone games were drag races, which is where all the big manly men would put on ladies' clothes and up and down the field, you know, like very, very just not the best representation of femininity. And that was a lot of fun, right? And it just turns out actually it's kind of just insulting and shitty. And it also just makes a big joke out of, maybe, you know, you want to wear women's clothes, like, so the fuck what? It's not hurting anybody. So I don't know if that necessarily answered the question, but I feel like there's like a lot of different things where my brain is pinging off of all of them at once. And so I'm having a hard time being sustained.
I don't have a soapbox, but I do have a follow-up.
Okay.
I think that we're actually moving from a time period where we were both gender stereotyping. So within the society, when people cross-dressed, it was very much so like it was making the joke. And as we become more and more millennial, like a lot of us are just like, we don't give a fuck if somebody's wearing a dress or pants or what. Are they comfortable and happy? Great. And I think that also just on an outside the society level, like in the mundane society, we are confronting and dealing with a lot of gender norms that have been toxic for many, many years. And so I think as that happens externally, we will see that internally within the society too.
Yeah. And I'm reading the comments as they're coming through, and Baja had a really great comment that I think was addressing my reference to the drag race stuff is, because they think being a woman is a joke, that it's somehow lesser. And so women who dress as men kind of gain credibility in that regard socially, but men who dress in women's clothes or considered feminine clothing, it's a downgrade. And that's one of the shitty parts about gender being a construct, is that it has a negative and a positive side to it. So I'm all about just tearing that shit down. I don't want to participate in it. I opt out. As much as I can, being a participant in the modern world and the society in which the modern world exists in, there are, of course, difficulties in completely, attaching or unattaching yourself to all that. But one of the things about the SCA that I always loved is that we tend to be more welcoming of alternative lifestyles. We call it, back in the day, called them alternative lifestyles, but variations on the theme of humanity. We always have this ability to look at somebody and be like, in the SCA, hey, that's your jam? Cool. Welcome to the group. I feel like we're in a very weird little bubble here on the West Coast, where that stuff is not as, it can be targeted, but I think overall, my observation anyway, in the SCA, in this region, is that it's more tolerated and it's more kind of understood. But, everybody's mileage may vary.
True.
Just to kind of build on that point, I do think we still, even here on the West Coast, while we're good about a lot of this, or we're getting better about it, we've still got some mileage to go, because I personally have had both peers and non-peers, but in particular, it was disturbing when it was peers who came up to me when I was wearing a very ornate set of boy clothes that I had completely made by hand. And I know they were trying to be complimentary, and they think that they probably thought they were, but they were telling me that they liked me better in the boy clothes.
Oh.
Essentially flagged, they liked me in my lane. And I kind of double clutched in the moment, because my brain didn't quite catch what I was hearing them say subtextually with that. But man, oh man, 5 minutes later, my brain was trying to replay the snapshot of who the hell was around who heard that person say that, because please God, don't let any of our newer members who are trans or non-gender, non-binary have heard that person who's got a lid on saying, essentially, we like you better when you stay in your lane.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. I have something for anybody that ever tells anybody that.
Echo that sentiment.
Pretty much. Like, you don't have to stay in a designated lane on this. Like, that's not how we work. So are we ready for the next question?
Yes.
Okay. The next question comes from, I just clicked the wrong window. Safia, and is, what advice would you give to an introvert seeking a peerage?
Interesting.
Simple answer is, the internet is your friend. Granted, yes, it is diving into potentially a cesspool, but you can put a lot of filters up. But it's a really great way if you don't want to in person interact, but you want to get your work out there and you want to demonstrate your abilities, whether it's on the Pelican track, because God knows there's a ton of admin work on almost any kingdom or baronial event that's going to take place online, where they could use someone who knows what they're doing. And certainly from an art standpoint, teaching and demonstrating what you do via videos, via photos, via written format so that you can put the body of your work out there, but not have to face someone in person as a way of getting around that introversion, yet the desire to share and be on that peerage path. I think that's the simplest method out there. I mean, when I was younger, it was blogs and, you know, live journal and tribe. But I think now there are enough forums and ways of putting your stuff out into the world that don't require you to stand out there like a sheet of bulletproof glass in front of other people and present it in person. I would look at those as a way of starting out, at least. At some point, you're probably going to have to interact a little bit with people, but you can build up to it and establish a comfort zone by putting it out digitally first.
Yeah, I'm actually going to say it's kind of spot on. We have the luxury nowadays that if you're an introvert, you have the ability to put a buffer between you and other people. And that buffer is the internet. You can take the time to choose your words when you write them, take the time to choose your words when you speak them on a video, unless you're on this video, in which case it's just all kind of verbal diarrhea all the time. And
but, you're not wrong.
Yet again, Tulia is referencing making scatological jokes and analogies. Anyways, yeah, y'all thought I was a lady, right? Well, you're wrong. But yeah, so we have the luxury with being on the internet and the way that we can reach other people. And I'm speaking of from a Laurel perspective. Service-wise, I'm not entirely sure how you would address it as a Pelican, nor as the chivalry path or the defense path. I'm not entirely sure how those things, which especially all three of those tend to be more active, like one-on-one interactions that kind of are dependent on, just my observation anyway, because I'm not a member of any of those orders, but it's more dependent on your like one-on-one interaction or one-on-many interaction in real life meet space. But for the Laurel, at least we have kind of a luxury in that regard, is that we are able to put our art on display. We don't have to necessarily be in people's faces or in their direct space in order to share and teach and communicate, our enthusiasm and love for whatever art that we're doing. And a lot of those ways that Aeron mentioned was the, back when we started, Aeron and I were starting out, it was like live journal and tribe and MySpace. A lot of the early Yahoo groups were built around these same things as well. And they all sort of like filtered into, once that faded out and Facebook took over, a lot of those groups transitioned into Facebook from Tribe, LiveJournal, and Yahoo. And they were all very much based on this knowledge, a sharing of knowledge and this transfer of ideas and the participation online in an online community, which I think worked really well for introverts who are artistic, who have or are on the Laurel path. Is a very easy thing. But again, like, I'm not entirely sure how you would translate into that sort of stuff into any of the other three bestowed peerages. So I'm going to toss it to Helga, who is a Pelican and a knight.
So I would be classed as an extroverted introvert.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like right at the top of the bell curve that you would be like, these are extroverts and these are introverts, and everybody falls in some fucking form of that. So what I would say is find yourself a weaponized extrovert and use them. So your extroverted friends will get you in so much trouble, and they will go talk about you, and they will promote you, and they will do half the work for you. I don't know why, because I do that all the time for my friends. They're like, I'm too shy to go do this. I'm like, if I hold your hand, will that help? Like, so, and actually what I would say is that finding your coping mechanisms so you can be out there, because part of the peerage path is, to be very blunt, is marketing. You have to have the renown for the councils to know. And so understanding who is involved in your projects and how that is going to play out is actually kind of key. And having a weaponized extrovert is great. And I say that with all the love because I totally am for other people all the time. Is finding somebody that can help you either stand up and talk or show off or will be there while you're doing it. And it's kind of like your safety blanket can help. And I have that when I was queen. Everybody drank. Is I had people that were always in my eyesight while I was speaking to the populace because they were the people that I would kind of catch eyes and they'd be like, yep, no, you're doing fine. And then other times they'd be like, bring up the volume, or they're like, they would kind of look at me like, you're rambling a little. And so those keys helped me a lot because I don't like public speaking. I don't want to be in the public. I don't standing up there and coming up with stuff off the top of your head. Oh my God, scariest thing on the planet. And so find what you need to feel comfortable and also understand that it's okay to do it afraid. And it's okay to use different tools to get your stuff out there. Social media is great. Blogging is great. ANS or arts displays where you do not have to be a part of it is great because I totally understand, I don't want to be trapped behind this with everybody picking on me. That feeling, because that's a really real thing in my head of just like, oh God. And so that I think is find what makes you want to be there or put your stuff out there and find those that are willing to help you along the path and be those healthy coping mechanisms that you need to be out there.
Okay, so we're getting a couple of comments about the video quality is lagging. Apparently people can still hear us okay. So we'll just keep going and hopefully it'll sort its shit out. I think this is some sort of weird internet-wide issue because we are having similar difficulties with YouTube. So we switched to Facebook in hopes that it would be easier, and it's similar things are happening. So something's going on that's out of our control. But just bear with us and we'll just keep going. And you can listen to us like we're a podcast then, instead of, we got all dressed up for podcasting. Okay.
It's all good. I'm only in one layer of a tunic, thankfully.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so I put on my I had this gorgeous gown that I love wearing, and I haven't worn it in about a year to 2 years. I put it on today because I was like, I'm gonna represent the late period with Aeron. We're gonna be all late period fabulous, and I get it on after a lot of brace yourself, Miss Scarlet, kind of hoisting into it. I had it on for about an hour, and I just was like. My body was shaking. I was having some sort of weird reaction to being trussed into something so tightly. And so I took it off, and that's why I'm wearing my kind of just regular this old thing, my regular kind of.
You're hot as fuck.
Thank you. It's the deep plunging neckline, right?
Yeah. Anyway. So are we ready for the next question?
Yeah, let's go on to the next question. So this one comes from Ghislaine. What is a particular special talent of yours? Could also be what is your stupid peer / armature trick? So wow us with all of these interesting factoids. Aeron.
I can pretty much find a way of putting bacon in any food item. I've only encountered one thing, and it was a Jell-O salad that I could not put bacon in. I put it in cakes, cookies, all sorts of sweets, anything savory, absolutely, but I'll wrap stuff in. Bacon is the little black dress of food that goes with damn near everything. And
I'm keeping that.
So evangelizing. Make brownies, cook a whole pack of bacon, crumble it up and stir it into the batter, bake it. Oh my God, best thing ever. Double fudge brownies where you've got that little salty hit of bacon in it. You will thank me later, trust me on this.
I like you more and more.
You know what? So bacon is weird for me. I love bacon fat, things that are cooked in bacon fat or rendered in bacon fat. Yes, please. All of it. But bacon itself, I can't eat a lot of. For some reason, I can have a half a strip of it, And I'm just like, okay, too rich, too much, can't deal. But I like it in unexpected things. I like the brownie idea because that kind of tracks with my cookies. I like doing these. Sorry to like completely like override you, Helga, but
Totally,
I had a baking like, moment here. I learned this from my sister, who is an amazing baker. That's her art form, acting and baking. I am all about the costuming and snark, I guess. But she bakes these amazing cookies, and I've asked her for the recipe numerous times and fucked it up every single time I try to make it. But one of the things that she does is she finishes off the cookie when it's still like, you take they're chocolate chip cookies, you take them out of the oven when they're still a little soft, and you sprinkle sea salt on top of it, and it's that little fleur de sel kind of a flavoring to it. It's so good. It makes a chocolate chip cookie, which is already pretty delicious, extra delicious. So fully into that. Anyway, Helga, go answer the question.
Oh, so like, what is my super, like, what is my special talent? Okay, would you like funny or serious?
You want to be
serious a while.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go with funny. I can get anybody into an epic level of shit and then talk them out of it. It is my superpower when it comes to partying at SCA events. Is my friends used to go party with me because they're like, we know this is going to be a rowdy shit show, and by the time we're all done, you're going to just walk out like nothing occurred. All of us are going to make it home safe. Everybody's going to get into bed. We're likely going to be hungover in the morning and hate you for not having a hangover, because apparently I was I'm the designated walker a lot, which means by the time they're starting to get a little rowdy, I'm just pointing the rowdy in various directions. So that's my superpower of like, come party with me, because I promise I'll get you into shenanigans, but I'll also make it so you get home.
That's accurate. Hashtag accurate. So for me, and now I have to answer the question. I have like no way to answer it. My stupid peer trick or my weird secret power is I can tell things I can't do. I can't like tie a cherry stem in a knot with my tongue. My mother can, though, which is annoying. At some point, I'm like, you're literally just sitting here under the table, tying them in knots and popping them in your mouth before I can tell. No, but she can actually do it. It's a thing. I can make pretty much anything. I can actually, if it's clothing, if it's something you put on your body, I can figure out a way to make it and make it fit. I don't know if that's necessarily a superpower, or it's just something that I've honed over the years because I've been sewing for so freaking long.
All superpowers are honed over time. Nobody is just naturally superpowered. You may have an inclination towards that superpower. You still got to put your 10,000 hours in.
But a superpower argues that it's also something that's kind of innate. And I'm not saying, like, I don't know why my brain, which cannot handle like simple math problems at all, or hold more than like 3 numbers in it at a time without getting horribly confused. I can do all sorts of amazing stuff with math in tailoring and sewing that I could never do if you put a pen and paper in front of me and told me to do it. Like, why does it work? I don't know why it works. It just fucking works. Like, so I guess that's the closest thing I have to like a superpower. Also, actually, I can probably tell you the fiber content of just about any fabric just by touching it. I've only been fooled a handful of times. The synthetics these days are getting better and better, which is a little alarming, but also really good for affordability. So, but yeah.
Nice. All right, we ready for the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
This one comes from Viscountess Guinevere. How do you respond?
Genevieve.
Genevieve. Sorry, my bad. Cannot. Everybody drink. I can't pronounce names.
Our dear Viscountess Genevieve.
Genevieve, how do you respond to cultural appropriation discussions within the SCA?
Whew. Okay. Back to serious. I think a lot of it comes down to be aware of your audience, be aware of who you are yourself. I mean, if you're Lily Wonderbread White and you're wanting to do something that is an ethnicity that is very not Caucasian, I'm never going to be the person that says, don't explore, don't create, don't make the thing that makes your heart sing every time you see it. But be aware when someone takes a photo of you in it or using it, you don't get to contextualize with that photo that you've spent 10, 15, 20 years digging into and learning about the culture and how that thing evolved, and that informed how you made it. You've done the work, you've got the receipts, but a photo is going to strip you of all of that. And so you have to be ready to have some hard conversations with people who are going to call you on the carpet, because we're at a crossroads right now in the SCA. We are trying to embrace other non-Caucasian cultures more openly, and that means the people of those cultures are going to question when white people are doing their thing. And we have to be ready to sit back and listen when they tell us, okay, that's nice, but you're over the line, or you've misinterpreted, or you're not getting it quite right because you're just not in the culture to know what's going on with X, Y, or Z. I think we have to be ready to listen first if we're going to go down that path, and not immediately get our hackles up and say, but I did the research, but I did this, but I did that, and think you're going to be the person that convinces everyone up front. Let them ask you the questions. Let them find out. Let them quiz you so that they plumb the depths of your dedication to it and see that it's genuine.
Yeah. My answer is actually very, very similar to Aaron's. It is, so I'm white. I don't get to tell people what is offensive and isn't offensive. If somebody finds a costume or a persona that somebody is doing in the SCA offensive, then that person who's doing that needs to listen to the person who says that this is offensive and why. I don't get to sit here and be the arbiter of what's okay and what isn't. I will say in that way though, you've got to be prepared to answer the hard questions. You've got to be prepared for people to come to you without the context, like Aaron was saying, without context of what you're wearing, if they've only seen you in photographs or if they've only like encountered you at a distance. And if they're like, hey, yo, why are you wearing that? You're going to have to be ready to not just hear, not just to hear their concerns or their feelings about it and recognize that and be humble enough to say, okay, maybe I'm doing something wrong here. But you've also got to be able to, I guess, back it up and just say, this is something, if I'm hurting somebody or somebody's expressed hurt because of a costume that I've done, is it worth doing that costume? Is it worth doing that persona? If it's just looking like it's not appreciation, it's appropriation. And that's a really hard thing. It's really hard for people to sit with that. I have only ever really done, Western European cultures. And as somebody who's descended from Western European, genetic stock, it's never been an issue for me on that level. You get deeper, you start digging deeper, and then of course you get into a lot of the cultural issues surrounding white hegemony. But you don't have the initial issue of, well, why are you a Black person wearing 16th century English costume? Because XYZ stupid, uninformed, racist reason. And conversely, if it's somebody who wants to do like, say, Japanese persona, but you look like I do, are you going to be ready to hear someone who is of Japanese descent that they're not okay with that? And then what are you going to do about it? You're going to listen to it? You're going to respect it? And then what? So you got to think about that. And those are things that, I'm not here to tell you you can't, but I'm here to tell you that if you get pushback on it, you've got to think about why. And you've got to be ready to hear why other people may have problems with what you're doing. Helga?
So my answer is I actually don't know how to answer this question. To be perfectly honest, I am still reading and learning the difference between appreciation and appropriation. And it's an interesting hard line to walk. And also our culture is changing relatively rapidly, hopefully for the better. But because I don't know, right now I typically do personas. I dress in a fashion that would have almost like kind of matched my skin tone. Because I don't have the knowledge to face the questioning, to represent all the cultures right. Because like I can tell you, I'm slightly obsessed with the Scythians, just a little bit. But I walk the line of caution right now because I personally don't know the difference. And so I am trying to take the time to learn and grow as a person before possibly crossing that line. Because right now, I feel like I'd probably fuck it up. So there's my answer. Is I actually technically can't answer this question because, I want to see people do what they want to do happy-wise. I just know personally for me, I don't have enough education to respond in a constructive manner, I guess.
Well, but I think that's an important point, though. You're taking the time to educate yourself about what the construct of appropriation actually is. And I think that would be an important first step for anybody who wants to go down a path where they're approaching a culture that they absolutely love, that inspires them, but is very not their own. Take the first step of reading up on what is appropriation, what is appreciation, so that you have the ability to have a conversation up front that tells someone, I've done my homework on the concept of appropriation as well as this culture. I'm being aware, I'm trying to be sensitive to the fact that we are changing rapidly on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's about listening to other people and how they're, how what you're doing is being received. And if you're getting a lot of negative pushback, revisit why that is and talk to people, and understand it, and then, recalibrate. So I guess let's move on to the next question. That was a heavy duty one. So this one's
all the heavy duty questions.
Is that all of ours? Okay, so I guess they're all more fun from here on out. So this one's from Baroness Constantia. What is your favorite thing you've made for someone else in the society, and why?
That's a split answer.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Kingdom, it would be 3 things. One, I got to make most of the elevation clothes for a very good friend of mine when she was elevated to the Pelican. And it was a period that I'm not as familiar with. So there was fun learning curve there. But also it was just fun getting to make something for someone's special day. And she very much embraces the go big or go home aesthetic. So it ended up having like an 8-foot long train on the sideless surcoat for the ceremony. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. And then the other thing was the counterpoint cloaks to Hansa's. His cloak, the peacock cloak, I had a lot of fun doing that. One, because
that he makes every excuse that the room is cold so he can wear it.
I get the most joy out of making things for people where I know they're going to give it a good life and it's going to start getting some stories on it because of the person wearing it around and doing stuff in it. So making that for him, knowing it was going to be a surprise, that was a particular piece of fun. And it was just I enjoyed looking at it while I was working on it. It was pretty to see spread out on my floor. And then our majesties at the time kept going on about how at some point they wanted to commission a copy of it or a similar for Morgan. And I was like, okay, we're going to file that away. And when they stepped down at this past 12th night, we surprised them with a set that are similar, but in a phoenix color pattern instead of the pelican. So, sorry, the peacock, not pelican. So that Han's still an original. It's not a complete. He does not have copies running around out there. But I like the pieces that I know are going to go to a fun home where they're gonna get to live a life, and stories are going to start being told about the shenanigans that go on when they get worn.
Can confirm. So I guess I get to answer that now, right?
Yeah, it's up to you.
So one of my favorite things that I've made is actually, this is gonna sound like a cop out, and I'm sorry, it kind of is. Any shield that I have painted that I then see on the field with loved, like it is scarred and people have been fighting with it, and like that is, anytime I see that, like by the time I'm done with the shield, most of the time I hate them. Like, I'm just like, oh, I could have done this better. There's so many things that are wrong with this, blah, blah, blah. And the one reason I love them so much is they're disposable art. So it's going to go to that person and they're going to use it and love it and just tear it up. And then eventually I can have better skills and I can provide them a new one. But I really, really enjoy, I've got shields in like 7 kingdoms now. And so I was at an international war, and then I saw 3 of my shields on the field, and those people didn't know each other. And that was one of the really coolest, like, oh yeah, I made those. But I like them because people love them so much, and they change the franchise for a person instantly. And so each one is its own little like love-hate relationship, and then I send them off into the wild. So, and it's just my time. It's a gift of time.
Cool. I want to just mention, so Constantia actually prefers non-binary titles. And I realized when we put this together that I applied Baroness to them without knowing that at that point in time that was not what they preferred. So I wanted to correct that. And when I asked how they would prefer to be addressed, they said either Baron or Baroness if you want English, or Constance Hypatos or Constantia Hypatisa. I think I'm getting those right if we're going Byzantine Greek. So we're learning. And I'm always willing to take correction. So just wanted to put that out there. I learn new things all the time, like also Hypatos or Hypatisa. Those are, yeah, cool. I guess it's the, Byzantine equivalent to Baron, Baroness. But to answer the question, let's see. I like making things for people that like me making things for them. I know that sounds weird. What I like to do is I like to sew for people that are like, let your creativity run wild. I don't really put any sort of restrictions on what you're doing with it. If they hand me a pile of fabric and they say, just run wild with it. And I love it. That's my favorite thing to make for people. And so I have all of these projects where I've done that for people, where it's everything from something that looks very like, utilitarian. It's a fighting tunic, like I made, or a tunic that I made for my boyfriend for one thing that he loves, and won't even wear any other tunics except for this one tunic that I made him. And I make him more tunics, and he's like, no, I want to wear this one. All it is like it's a white linen tunic, and he loves the shit out of that tunic. And so that's wonderful for me, because that's the joy that he gets from wearing something that I made. That's what I want, is to feel that joy. As one of my best friends, Viscountess Ciela, I make her, she's very hands off with what I make her. And she's just like, just make me something that fits and I look fabulous in. And she then proceeds to look like a stunning goddess in everything that I make. And I don't think that's necessarily because of me, but I'm willing to take some of that credit. So, yeah, it's just how that stuff is received. It's from the basic stuff to the more elaborate stuff. If I love you as a human being, I will make you things, and everything I make you is a wonderful thing for me to do. Yeah, I'm going to say that's going to be my answer.
Accepted.
Yeah.
All right, to the next question. This is from Anonymous. How do you keep your energy and productivity up when you're working on a big or long-term project?
Oh God, that's a hard question. I'm going to dip out for a second. I'll be right back.
Oh, somebody's got to pee.
Shut up.
We could take a quick question from the audience.
Yeah, if we want to wait for her to come back, I'm fine with one from the audience.
Yeah. So, if anybody hears that from the audience out there, like, quick, throw us a question. We'll answer it. Try to get sassy. So, are you enjoying your time on the show so far?
Absolutely. I am not telling Rebel bases that that's not happening.
You, by the way, just look, oh my God, fantastic. Like,
this old thing.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Princess Leia quote, one of the most useful quotes on the face of this planet. You came in that, you're braver than I thought. Think of the number of situations that applies to.
Oh, I've used that one on my husband. Like,
right.
Yeah, there's been some conversations where I've been like, really? Really? Oh, honey. Oh, okay. So we've got what's your real peer trick? And favorite sassy story.
Okay. It was a favorite and an absolute terror. There were two of them. One from Maggie at Feed the Ravens. I got to work with for the first time one of the Diamond Twills for my good friend Disa's Laurel elevation last year. And I'd never done Norse before. So that was learning curve for me. But oh my God, just the feel of that stuff. It is so delicious. Scary as all hell to work with because it frays like a motherfucker the minute you slice into it. But the other one that I loved, and I literally had to slam 5 shots of espresso to get the courage up to put the scissors to it, was a fabric that a friend of mine, Christos, had sent me to make a Venetian outfit out of. And it was a silk that was from Italy. It was an import from Italy that had 24 karat gold embroidered, thread wrap embroidery on it. And it was just enough yardage with a huge pattern repeat that I had one shot at cutting it right. And if I didn't get it right the first time, I'd ruined $180 a yard fabric. And I was like, okay. Deep calming breath.
Oh, yeah.
Brand spanking new shears that have never touched another piece of fabric in their life, fresh out of the package, slam the 5 shots of espresso and start cutting that bad boy. Fortunately, it turned out fine, and I love that. It was a beautiful fabric, but oh dear Lord, the screaming in my head as the shears closed on the first cut. And I'm praying God that I got it right.
Oh. Yeah, I'd be the same way. So my favorite fabric, so little do people know I actually sew. However, I have an anxiety about cutting fabric. I'm pretty sure it's a poor kid thing, but like huge anxiety about cutting fabric because if I cut it, then it's no longer fabric and I no longer have it and I probably screwed it up. However, once it's cut out, other people can cut stuff out and I can sew it together, no problem. However, my favorite fabric is actually was a gift for my knighting from a very dear lady of the lake. Which was over 100-year-old herringbone silk that had been smuggled out of Japan. And so my knighting tunic is just it. You at some point I will have to pull it out for you, and you have to touch it. It is real raw silk and how it should be, and it's got this beautiful white woven herringbone pattern in it. I cried. I did not cut that out. I sent that to a professional because I was not touching that. So, Sarah, the question was, what's your favorite fabric?
All of them. I love all fabric equally. Also, Helga, I wanted to tell you, the fabric's more afraid of you than you are of it. So be bold when you cut. Commit.
maybe if I've got you like holding my hand, this is where I'm gonna be the little like anxiety-driven rabbit for a bit, and we can come over and sew.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I love is I love working with silk damask. Like that shit is amazing to sew with. So just easy to sew. It's actually, it looks really intimidating. It costs, most of the time costs a lot of money, but it is actually a dream to sew with. Silk taffeta is the same way, like such a dream to sew with. Wool, easy. Wool is like using plastic. It's malleable. It molds and it does these cool things that you're like, fabric shouldn't do this, that other fabrics don't do. Linen is a pain in the ass, but it feels great to wear. So linen is one of these fabrics that is just going to crawl away from you every single, step that you try to do. It's going to do its own little thing.
Especially super hard because like I have the easiest time sewing linen.
Well, so the thing with linen is if you're sewing with a high quality linen, it will, higher thread count. It will have more stability to it. But if you're doing like, fairly inexpensive linen, like if you get it from Joann's or something like that, it's just gonna do other things that maybe not necessarily what you want it to do, particularly when cutting it. I'm dealing with that right now with some linen that I got in the fabric district in LA a couple of years ago, and I'm starting to now make tunics out of it and everything. Every single time I cut that damn thing, it is never going to be true. I cannot, like, I've tried every trick in the book to get the warp to like, settle in and straighten out and like, all the stuff. And it's just like, no, not going to do it. Middle fingers all the way. But I'd probably have to say my favorite fabric of all time to sew with. It's either going to be, it's the top three. It's silk taffeta, silk damask, or wool, like a good wool flannel, dream to sew with. The worst fabric to sew with, silk chiffon, fuck chiffon. Really, really just fuck it sideways with an anchor. It's awful.
Face. Absolutely.
It's awful, awful shit. And I did a lot of that. Okay, so this is kind of a soapbox. I guess we're going to call this the soapbox. I used to very, very, very early on in my sewing career, I made belly dancing costumes for some belly dancers that, I had kind of like a regular clientele with them. And of course, we're talking like cabaret belly dancing. So it's not, heavier fabrics or anything like what you would probably see in like American tribal or like Turkish and, more of the traditional forms of Middle Eastern dance. So it was a lot of sequins, a lot of velvet, which by the way, velvet also really sucks, and a lot of chiffon. And that shit just sucks. It sucks so hard. Beautiful. And it's beautiful when you dance with it. It looks so beautiful and flowing and wonderful. Absolute pain in the ass to sew with though. So
we're ready for the next question?
Yes.
All right. The next question. It was the question from Anonymous. Do you want me to reread it?
Oh, yeah, reread it. Let's do this.
Okay. Question from Anonymous. How do you keep your energy and productivity up when you're working on a big or a long-term project?
Binge watching for one thing. Almost any big project that I've done, I can tell you exactly how many times I have watched The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Don't even come at me. I enjoy them. It's fine. Get over it. But I'll watch all of them because one, there are the director's cuts, which are like 3.5 hours long each. So there's plenty of pretty pictures to flow by you. So a lot of it is keep some sort of stimulation other than what I'm working on particularly something that I'm familiar with enough that I don't have to concentrate on it, but it kind of lets my brain disengage, and the sewing becomes a little bit zen at that point. And well, let's be honest, coffee. Split a vein on me and you're going to get dark roast. There's no two ways about it at this point in my life. I try and set blocks of time that I will work during, so that I don't completely 100% burn out by doing this marathon stint. You know, that being said, we've all done the 24 hours of sewing right before a Kingdom event, and there's that thing you must have finished to wear to Saturday court. So God damn it, you're going to work until 6 a.m. and then sew in the car on the way to the event. Getting better about that, but it still happens, I'm not going to lie. But really, honestly, it's trying to pace myself in terms of the list making, so that I'm not unrealistically imagining how much I can get done in an evening or a day, and making sure that I stay caffeinated, but also eat as well, because Lord knows when your energy crashes, you'll go and take a nap and you'll just forget about sewing anyhow. Mm-hmm. So making sure that I don't have the sugar carb crash is really kind of the other key.
Yeah. What?
I'm sorry. I just had somebody come rescue me because I'm currently sitting on a bed doing this episode, and normally I've got like my extra drink set up and everything else like that, so I can be like my little hidey hole. And this time, because I'm sitting in a bed and it's a Cow King, I was a dumbass and I'm sitting in the middle of it, and so I couldn't reach the vodka or the ginger beer without having to move my entire setup. So I sent out help text messages to people in the house.
Yeah. Well, you know what's great is now my boyfriend is watching the show, so in approximately 30 to 45 seconds, because of the lag is a bitch. Hey, Thorfinn, can you bring me another gin and tonic? Thanks. He'll get it. But, okay, so answering that question, you know, it's really, again, I'll have to go back to this. Back when I had the passion for sewing, this goes into a whole thing where my life in the last couple of years, it really took some weird turns, and part of it was I lost my passion for sewing. It used to be like that was all I lived and breathed for 20 years of my life at least, and suddenly now it's something that I have a harder time engaging with. And so my projects where I used to be able to crank something out in like 48 hours of almost nonstop sewing, because my focus was just very much on like, I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep going. I'm motoring along and I'm not going to stop. I've got my steam, you know, it's going along great. Now it's a real slog for me to follow anything through to completion. And I've got probably half a dozen projects right now that I've been working on for over a year. And it used to be I would, you know, crank these things out, like I said, in a couple of days to a couple of weeks. What used to work really well for me was the anticipation of wearing the garb at a specific event. So if I had a specific event in mind for what I was making, it didn't matter if I started, you know, the night before or I started weeks before. But it's one of those things that the passion was in the wearing of the costume, the finished item. And there was a lot of passion as well in the process. But I have a hard time with it now. So, you know, that's a hard question for me to answer, because where I am mentally right now is not what I was, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, in which I was really prodigious in my sewing. In fact, Aaron, God, you remind me of me. Like, just you crank shit out. Like, and I was in awe and like, also, what happened to me? So, yeah. Should we go to the next question?
I still get to answer.
Oh, right. Sorry. Shit, I forgot.
I am ADD as fuck.
Yeah.
So with like, sewing or shields or anything else like that, I wouldn't say that anything like is really a huge long-term project for me. I think that the most hours I have in a shield is 55 hours. And so what I do is I actually have 2 to 3 shields going at the same time. I have 2 to 3 sewing projects going at the same time. So if I get annoyed at one, I will set that one down, and then I will go get the other one. And the other one gets to sit in the corner because it's on timeout. It's being punished for my annoyance, and it can stay over there, right the fuck over there. And so that's one of the ways that I keep myself, because what I'll do is I'll keep myself rolling through projects, or I attempt to keep myself rolling through projects. I really stalled out for about 2 years where I lost a lot of ground, and I stopped doing a bunch of projects. But now I'm back to like cranking out shields. I've got 11 shields right now in various stages, from drawn to painted to prepped to go into the cycle. And so like when I get annoyed at one shield, I set one shield down and I pick one up and I crank on that for a little while. And when I'm really annoyed at like doing shields, I go and I draw, or I work on, I've got like 5 or 6 hoods that I need to do seam treatments on and stuff like that. So I try to keep rolling projects. Also, I will agree with Aaron on this, binge watching. Since the start of the pandemic, I have gone through 14 seasons of Supernatural. Like, I am now on season, like, almost the end of season 14. By the way, season 5, way too realistic. Way too realistic for this pandemic. I always remember hoard toilet paper like it's gold. So yeah, I'll just pick the next show that I'm going to binge watch and kind of keep background music, background noise on while I'm just cranking on things. So, and occasionally, you get it done through spite sprinkles. You may not want to finish it, but it's close to being done, so fuck it, finish it.
Yeah, and that's the spite. I guess spite sprinkles goes in with like the anticipation of being able to wear something and like show up at the event and just have everybody go, and you're like, yeah, fucking A, right? But yeah.
Yep, pretty much. Okay, so the next question
is me.
Yep.
Okay, this is actually my question and my question. This is from me. What hobby would you fill your time with and spend your money on if the SCA suddenly went away?
Oh. I actually have developed a liking for, and I've discovered it through the SCA, but I like in general embroidery. I further cementing my status as a Jane Austen character.
That's why we're soap opera. We're soap opera triplets. That's exactly why we're soap opera triplets. Anyways,
giving me hell from there. We are back on track. No, I've discovered that there's a zen to it. Granted, I have a particular few stitches and types of designs that I like doing that I don't have to be nose down to the fabric while I'm doing it. I can kind of be having a conversation with other people, hanging out, it's something to keep my hands busy. But I do kind of like the sort of calming aspect that it has. Gardening, not ever going to be it. I'm just not a gardener. That's never going to happen. And I like cooking, but I do plenty of that now anyhow. So I don't think that would change, other than maybe more time to do it if the SCA weren't around. But yeah, I have a feeling I'd probably be doing more of the art type embroidery that ends up getting framed, the pieces that look almost painterly in their quality, that are never meant to be garment embellishment embroidery.
That's nice. That's awesome. So I'd have a horse again in a heartbeat. And I would probably still be thinking about being a knight in shining armor on a horse, hitting fence posts with a stick. But actually when I moved to the Bay, I gave up my horses. Because you can't live in the Bay and afford horses at the same time. And if the SCA went away, I'd go right back to having one of those 4-legged murder machines. Because really, there's not much difference between a mountain bike and a horse. The mountain bike has rotational inertia on its side. The horse, however, has a brain, and occasionally they misfire. And then it's just a 1,200-pound bomb. But I love them. So,
Cool.
Yeah.
So I've taken breaks from the SCA and done other types of reenactment, and I probably would actually be what happens to me is that I would just go into some other form of reenactment, like hardcore, because I love history and I love wearing pretty clothes. So reenactment kind of like hits all those buttons for me. But if it was something that I had to get completely away from, I come up blank. I honestly come up blank. I would have to actually be in that situation to really kind of reckon with it, because my whole life, well, I shouldn't say my whole life, but 2/3 of my life has been wrapped up in this, in costuming, historical costuming specifically, or SCA, Renaissance fairs, Dickens Fair, that kind of stuff. It's hard for me to think outside of those hobby boxes. And even though I asked the question, I think I'm actually just kind of saying, like, I actually don't know the answer to that. I would have to really find out. My boyfriend and I do talk a lot about things like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to get into Airstream trailers? Like, stuff like that sounds really interesting, but costs a lot of money because we're throwing all of our money into this weird hobby instead of that weird hobby. But yeah, I could see myself actually, no, now that I'm talking, I'm rambling. I can see myself getting into things like, vintage cars, really heavily. Little known fact, I really do enjoy vintage automobiles a lot. Maybe not necessarily the scene. I've had enough interactions with people who are in the scene and they've been great and everything, but I don't know if I would engage on it in that level. But I do love, especially 1960s muscle cars. Like, you can't go wrong. That's some good shit right there. I guess that's going to be my answer.
I have a really weird aside to this answer.
Yeah.
How the fuck are Airstream trailers a hobby?
They're amazing.
You have a trailer. That's your trailer. You haul it places.
No. No.
Camping in an Airstream trailer is a fucking hobby. How the fuck is an Airstream trailer a hobby?
So an Airstream trailer, they're like 1950s time capsules, literally. They look like it, they're just these big, like, bulbous, round aluminum canisters, but the interiors are really cool and people do all sorts of really awesome modifications with them. Like, there's a whole scene. I actually had a good friend of mine who used to be in that scene, and I think that's actually where my interest in it kind of came from, because she would be posting pictures of the Airstreams. They would do their big conventions and stuff where everybody would just haul their Airstream trailers in, and they're like beautiful, weird little mid-century works of art. And
that's your trailer.
I'm a sucker. Hey, also, don't you dare hobby shame.
Okay, actually, you're right. Like, hobby shaming is like kink shaming, and we can get you can get me on that rant. No fucking kink shaming. But it's just, that was just one of those weird ones where I'm like, do you have a dozen of them? Is it like a collectible? Like, what the fuck is this? So with that, we are to our bonus question.
All right, that's yours.
Erin, your eyelashes doing okay?
Trying to stage an escape for some reason, and I'm not sure why.
It's not being a team player. I hate that.
I'd like to know that, like, I got to do a little tutorial on how to put on those eyelashes with Erin. One, braver human being than I am. 100%.
Actually,
That's a bullshit process right there of just imagination, luck, and fucking talent.
Yeah.
My eyes have been watering throughout the evening, and I think just that's interfering with the magnets holding them on. So I'm like, okay.
Magnetized ones.
Oh yeah, They're super cool.
How do they work? I mean, I know how they work, but like, how are they?
They're awesome. Duchess Mary Grace turned me on to them, and they're super easy to work with. Most of the time, I don't even know that they're there. Unlike when you put a regular glue-on set on, how it makes your eyelid feel a little bit tight once the glue sets up. You don't get that feeling at all. They're actually really light. It's just, like I said, my eyes I'm enjoying a lovely secondary allergy season. Oh joy. And so my eye just started watering a little bit ago, and I think that's mostly what did it. But we just took them off. They're not being a team player, so they get to sit the last round out.
So are you ready for the bonus question of the evening?
Let's
Yes.
do it.
The bonus question is from Adam. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
I want time travel.
Time travel. Well, that's a good one.
Okay, so what would you do with that?
Stop myself from making a number of shitty choices earlier on. I've watched enough sci-fi to know, don't fuck with the big time stream. I will fuck with my own time stream like nobody's business. However, I will tell myself, no, don't return that call. You're not going on that date. Just don't.
Oh, I would do the same. Can we just give you a list and you can do that for us too?
Yeah, exactly.
Back and forth and say, girl, no, put it down. Just step away from the cell phone.
Oh God, seriously. That's the hard part. Man, there was a whole relationship in my early 20s that I wish I could just delete from history. Yeah.
So this is gonna be a really weird one. There is actually a reference in Abney Park, which is one of my favorite like steampunk bands, by the way. Go look them up. They're a delight. However, the lead singer is a total asshole.
Who?
The Abney Park.
Okay.
But they do a song about an invention where you can talk to your past self, and it's the entire song is like this old dude on his deathbed talking to the younger version of himself, being like, "You should probably avoid doing this."
Yeah, I honestly don't even think that would have worked on me though. If like future me came and visited past me and was like, "Don't date that guy," I still would have been like, "You know what? Fuck you. I know what I'm doing." You know, I think that some things are set in stone. They're, how did Doctor Who put it? They're, you can't change the timeline with them. There's a phrase from the New Who where they talk about these fixed points in time that you can't alter. Yeah. And so yeah, I don't know. I think my superpower, I think my superpower would be, I would like to be able to fly. I hate heights, which makes it sound really weird, but I would really like to be able to fly. Maybe that would help me get over my fear of heights.
Accepted. I would totally take shapeshifting. And there's a couple reasons, so hang on for this ride of fuckery. Okay. One, guaranteed, I would shift into the biggest fucking, like, saber-toothed tiger I could and just park on my friend's couch and scare the dog shit out of them when they got home. Like, that would be sport. Like, what can I do to, like, mess with people with this? Two, okay, so, like, you've got messing with your friends. Two, I always wanted to know what it's like to have a penis. Gonna 100% go try that ride.
Oh my God, I would have a penis for a day for sure. Yeah. Absolutely would have a penis. I'd probably fuck everything in sight.
Bang, penis. Gonna go try this thing out.
I need to know what this is about.
Still gonna go try this thing out because, like, I have so many questions.
Penis for a day. Being standing up, man, that would have been really awesome.
So, and beyond that, it's just like you could do some really just the pranking you could do, but also like it would allow you to change and understand so much because you could take away, like, amusingly enough, you could take away your own privilege. You could put yourself in a different dynamic just by looks. You could, mess with people super fast, or you could even offer them different perspectives because you're going to be able to change what you look like so you can have the conversation to beat their own biases.
Yeah.
So you go from super fucking weird to, oh my God, that's Helga, to like slightly philosophical.
So in essence, Helga is Mad Madam Mim. Julia is Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, who are you?
Hermione.
Hermione. Oh no, you're totally Hermione.
Yes.
I actually also was just thinking too, that like the ability to teleport would be really cool. Like imagine like not having to haul your shit to like events. You just teleport your shit there. Okay, so Baby Ninja says hard pass, but maybe he'll get on the comments and tell us why.
Oh my God. Imagine going to an event with Hermione's little beaded bag of holding.
Oh my God, I know, right?
Oh.
Every time we go to an event, I'm always like, can we just like, you know, Mary Poppins this shit and like set it all up and then pack it all down with a wave of a wand, you know?
I want one of like the magic tents where you set up like in all the fucking weird fantasy, like the B fantasy movies that you go to, and they like set up this little tent, and then when you walk into the tent, it's like some gigantic. It's got like the big 4-poster bed.
That was like Hermione's tent. That's actually like the, you know, in like what, like the last book in Harry Potter, and they kind of did it in the movies too, where they're out in the middle, they're in the wilderness period, and they're wandering in the wild, and it's Hermione and Harry and Ron, and there's this like tiny little tent, and you go inside it, and it's just palatial inside. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, I want a wizard tent. Give me that.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, if I could have an outside of myself like super power thing to have, it would probably be that. I want like, here's my little tent. I'm gonna throw it up. When you walk inside, welcome to my motherfucking palace, assholes. Like,
okay. Hard pass on teleporting. We're gonna Baby Ninja put his answer in chat, so everybody enjoy that. I actually accidentally clicked off the chat, so anyways.
Well, and with that, we actually come to the close of the show. I want to say thank you so much for joining us. You have been an absolute delight. You wrestled some really, really fucking hard questions with us, and just you have mastered grace and poise. It is delightful.
Indeed.
Also, your snark is fucking on point.
Yeah, snark is a very useful tool.
So I just want to say thank you to all our viewers who hung on for the rodeo ride of YouTube shitting on us, and then Facebook stalling out, so you got the weird like facial expressions of just but you know, our voice is still there. Thank you very much every week for tuning in. Please remember to like, share, and follow. And then next week we will be joining, and our guest will be Duke Bela, who is the king of the Outlands currently. And so we're looking forward to that one. I'm gonna remind everybody, please send us in your questions. We would love to get some super sassy questions in. We've been getting a list of heavy hitting questions. And so I would really like to see if we can make the King of the Outlands blush a little bit, because, you know, they're sporting that.
Yeah. So I'm getting furious updates from Carius right now on the back end, and he wants us to remind us that we're going to do a very special episode where Baby Ninja and Carius get to ask us questions. And I believe it's not this Saturday, it's next Saturday, which I think is the 11th. Is that correct?
Yes, they're nodding their heads in the background of that's when they're going to pepper us with questions.
Yes. So yeah, we don't get to know what's happening. They're basically going to do exactly to us what we do to everyone else who's on the show. So, so be sure to tune in to Between Two Peers on the very special episode on July 11th. What time? Standard time, so 7 p.m. Pacific. And also, do we want to do some shout outs?
Oh, yeah, please feel free.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was going to shout out for our sibling show, Ask the Knights Live. Go to their Facebook, Ask the Knights Live. They're fabulous. That's Baron Logan, His Excellency. He just got his shiny little barony, so we're happy for him. He interviews 1 or 2 knights on a weekly basis, and sometimes more than a weekly basis. And they talk about all sorts of really interesting things. We've had, I mean, I love listening to the show. Like, that's one of my favorite things is, even though I'm not a heavy fighter, it's interesting to me when people who are interesting talk about what they like doing. So definitely check them out. Ask the Knights Live.
I'm going to make a shout out for Live from Kaid, who we will be joining here in a couple weeks to go have a rowdy fun time. They're doing some really cool stuff. Please check them out. They're linked to our page at this point, so you can check. If you can't find them by the search bar, you can find them through our page. And Baroness Antonio, would you wish to give a shout out for anything going on in your kingdom right now? Joel, did you hear me?
Oh, sorry.
Must have cut out right in the middle of that. Yeah.
I was asking if you wanted to shout out anything going on in your kingdom right now.
We have Road to Athenaeum coming up in another week and a half on the Saturday the 18th. It will be a virtual ANS display. There we have 50 artisans who are going to be putting online portfolios up. And you can go to the Road to Athenaeum site, and if you see something there that you find interesting, you can sign up, and we're going to set up one-on-one Zoom chats between the artisans and Populous members. Our goal is to pair them up with Laurels so that they can get direct feedback on what they're doing. But if there's just another peer or another artisan who's been hitting the same roadblock or is doing the same thing and wants to geek out, go to the site, check it out, and we're going to be doing it. You'll register, and we're going to schedule you for a conversation with them.
That's really cool.
That sounds amazing.
That's really cool. Yeah.
So with that, we will bid you all have a wonderful evening. Have an amazing holiday weekend. Everybody stay safe, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Socially distance and wear your fucking masks.
Wash your goddamn hands.
And wash your goddamn hands. Exactly. Yeah, the trifecta. So, bye.